Hi, this is Keith. In the last video, I talked about three things a president has to do first before tackling any major policy initiatives. I talked about the fact that the president has to prove to the people that he's going to be truthful and accountable, and the best way to do that is eliminating corruption, fraud, and abuse. I talked about the president has to show that he's going to be fiscally responsible by eliminating wasteful government spending. And the president has to show that he or she has the correct priorities by making the average citizen's interests their first priority. And if you convince the people of those three things, and it may take a while, because remember, you're going to be elected with 51, 53, 54% of the vote based upon historical data, and you need to get about 60 to 65% of the people to buy into your policy ideas before you can push them through Congress, or try to push them through Congress. And so you've got to take some time to convince them that you're going to be focused on these three things. And because of this need to complete these things first, I'm going to talk about all policy area and initiatives that my administration will attempt to implement using the following format. And very simply, it's going to break it out in time: first 100 days, first 2 years after the first 100 days, and then the second 2 years of a 4-year administration. And then further break it out by what are executive orders and what's congressional legislation. My experience is, first of all, no president that I've seen publicly tells you what they're going to try to do in this kind of timeline order. But secondly, they mix executive orders and congressional legislation like they're the same thing, and they're not the same thing. And American people need to understand that you're going to do them in two different ways and how you're going to do it. So in the first 100 days, in terms of executive order, I talked about this in a previous video when I talked about truth, transparency, and those sorts of things. We're going to create an ethics and corruption cabinet secretary. And then any administration meeting, that means anything within the White House, any cabinet agencies, any agency within the administration, attended by a lobbyist, and this includes phone calls and Zoom meetings and things of that sort, attended by a lobbyist or corporation, will also be open to citizen advocate organizations. No more secret meetings. I believe that corruption in politics is partly promulgated through secret meetings. So no more secret meetings. And that's the first 100 days. We'll implement that policy. In the first 2 years, in terms of on the executive order side, we'll have weekly press briefings highlighting government waste eliminated, government fraud, abuse eliminated, government spending controlled, to try to instill the administration's policies to make sure people believe that these are the things that we're going to try to do. And then I'm going to try to push Congress through some congressional legislation to implement the same policies that we're implementing in the administration. If you can get both the administration and Congress to implement the no secret meetings rule, I think you'd see a lot of corruption eliminated just through those two things. And in the second 2 years, we're going to try to put some reasonable restraint on Citizens United. And that's all we're going to try to do in 4 years. We're going to try to make sure that we clean up the secret meetings to try to get rid of corruption in politics. We're going to try to prove and actually demonstrate government spending control, fraud, abuse eliminated. And we're going to try to put some constraints. The issue is that Citizens United said that unlimited campaign finance spending is a First Amendment right, and so I don't think you can get rid of Citizens United. I think you can, through congressional legislation, put some reasonable restraints on it to make it a little bit less onerous. And again, that's all I would try to do in corruption in politics. I'd lay that out right up front, and I would tell the people that you try to do too much, you get nothing done. You try to do some limited things and stay focused, you might be able to get them done, and that's what I try to get done. And that's all this chart says. How do you create real and lasting change? You can first convince the people that you mean what you say. Second, you make sure that people support your goals and your basic vision. And my metric is you got to get at least 65% of the people. Third, you make sure that people support any policy you propose. It's not just your goals and vision, but specific policies. And then you introduce things into the legislative process. And you don't go to step 4 until you've achieved steps 1 through 3, because step 4 is nearly impossible if you don't achieve steps 1 through 3. And that very quickly is what the Dr. Keith administration will do in the area of corruption in politics. Next time, I'm going to talk about the U.S. manufacturing base and the Dr. Keith administration's policies and initiatives in that area. I hope to see you next time.